Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at The Clockwork Apprentice and the Golden Gear, deconstructing a world in one sentence. Have you ever read a single line of text that's so incredibly vivid, a complete, vibrant movie scene just literally bursts into your mind? We're going to unpack exactly how that happens. We're looking at a real masterclass in descriptive world building here. It's absolutely fascinating how just a few perfectly chosen words don't just paint a static picture, but they actually construct a dynamic story, a sprawling setting, and a deeply felt emotional tone, all at the exact same time.
Take a second to really let the sheer visual density of this scene wash over you. Visualize every colorful detail. The text reads, 3D cartoon movie image of a cheerful boy inventor with oversized brass goggles offering a shiny gold gear to a mechanical clockwork bird perched on his hand, set on a bustling floating island marketplace filled with colorful airships in a Pixar or Disney cartoon movie style from a mid-range eye-level perspective with warm, golden hour sunset light. I mean, it's almost breathless, right? It's just a single sentence, but it's carrying the heavy narrative weight of a massive animation studio's concept art. So you're probably wondering, how does one sentence build an entire universe? The crucial thing we're exploring today is how very specific nouns, adjectives, and framing techniques work together to imply this massive, rich narrative. It's not magic, it's pure descriptive architecture. Literally every single word in that text is a load-bearing pillar. If you pull out the setting, the characters lose their context entirely. If you change the lighting, boom, the emotional impact vanishes. So we're going to break down this architecture layer by layer, starting right in the very center of the frame.
Section 1. The Boy and the Bird. Contrasting Characters. Let's start right in the foreground. This text brilliantly sets up a beautiful juxtaposition. We've got the organic, cheerful human element on the left side and the artificial, mechanical avian element on the right. Notice how the author doesn't just say a boy and a bird. No, they specifically give us a cheerful boy inventor and a mechanical clockwork bird. Instantly, there's a dynamic relationship established here. One breathes, one ticks. But they're deeply connected. The kid isn't just holding some static toy. He's interacting with something that represents his very own inventive nature.
When we isolate his description, cheerful boy inventor with oversized brass goggles, we've got to ask ourselves, what do those goggles instantly tell us about his messy, hands-on profession? You see, the goggles aren't just a quirky fashion statement. They're actually a highly efficient storytelling device. The word oversized tells us he's probably young, maybe actively growing into his role, or even a bit clumsy. And brass? That immediately grounds us in a very specific visual genre. It gives off these distinct steampunk or retrofuturistic vibes. Without explicitly spelling out, hey, this takes place in a steampunk fantasy world, those three words literally do all the heavy lifting for us.
Now, let's look at his companion. By specifying that the bird is clockwork, the text implies a mechanism with a complex system of gears and springs. That's a huge marker of intricate, handmade artificial life. It implies immense craftsmanship and care, effectively turning what could be a simple prop into a real mechanical companion. I mean, clockwork is just such a specific, evocative word. It tells us this boy inventor is highly skilled. He didn't just bolt some scrap metal together, he built something that elegantly mimics life. It makes us want to lean in closer, right? Like you can practically hear the tiny ticks and whirs of its internal gears. Section 2. The Golden Gear. The interactive prop. Moving right to the center of the action, we see him offering a shiny gold gear. That active word, offering, creates an incredibly tender connection between the boy and the bird. It really acts as the narrative anchor of the entire image. Notice that it doesn't say holding or inserting. Offering implies a choice. It implies the clockwork bird has some agency, maybe even a consciousness of its own. It successfully elevates the bird from a mere machine to a genuine supporting character. This one single verb transforms a static portrait into a deeply emotional, interactive moment. It's quite literally an exchange of trust. So why a golden gear instead of, say, a silver one? What's really interesting here is how gold implies immense value, warmth, and perhaps a missing piece that's absolutely crucial to the bird's survival. Think about it. If it were iron, it would feel industrial, kind of gritty. Silver would feel cold, maybe a bit clinical. But gold? Gold is precious. It catches the eye and the light. By making the gear shiny and gold, the author signals to us that this isn't just routine maintenance. This is a special, significant moment. Maybe it's the final piece needed to bring the bird fully to life.
That single color choice entirely dictates the emotional weight of the object. Section 3. The floating marketplace, expanding the world. Next, we zoom out from this intimate character interaction, and the text rapidly breaks down the environment into specific background elements. A floating island marketplace, a bustling atmosphere, and colorful airships. We go from a macro focus on a tiny golden gear to a sprawling, epic landscape in the blink of an eye. A floating island marketplace. Boom, instantly gravity is defied. We know for sure we aren't on Earth as we know it. The colorful airships tell us exactly how these people travel and trade, signaling an advanced high fantasy civilization. The world building here is just astonishingly efficient.
Let's look closely at that phrase. Bustling, floating island marketplace filled with colorful airships. Notice how sensory words like bustling and colorful do all the heavy lifting here. They inject life, trade, and movement into the background without needing actual paragraphs of exposition. Bustling means we can almost hear the scene, right? The shouts of merchants, the hiss of steam from the airships, coins clinking. It contrasts wonderfully with that quiet, focused moment happening between the boy and the bird in the foreground. It gives the scene incredible three-dimensional depth, setting up a massive, living world operating right behind our main characters.
Section 4. Framing the aesthetic, directorial choices.
Finally, let's look at the directorial choices embedded in the text. The author essentially acts as a cinematographer here, feeding us 3 sequential steps to perfectly render the aesthetic and emotional tone. First, a Pixar or Disney 3D cartoon style. Second, a mid-range, eye-level perspective. And third, warm golden hour sunset light. It's a brilliant descriptive hack. By explicitly saying Pixar or Disney style, the author bypasses pages of descriptive styling. We instantly know the textures will be soft, the edges rounded, the expressions highly empathetic. It perfectly anchors our brain to a visual language we already know and love.
Now, what does a mid-range eye-level perspective actually do for our connection to the cheerful boy? Well, it places us directly in his space as an equal observer, rather than looking down on him. Think about camera angles for a second. If this were a high-angle shot looking down, the boy might look vulnerable or small. If it were a low-angle shot looking up, he'd look heroic, maybe imposing. But mid-range, eye-level? That makes him a friend. It puts us right there in the bustling marketplace, standing next to him, leaning in to see this magical clockwork bird up close. It breeds total intimacy. Then, wrapping the entire scene in warm, golden hour sunset light absolutely cements the emotional arc. It's that warm, sunset light that casts a magical, nostalgic, and emotional glow over everything. It makes the exchange of the gear feel poignant and magical rather than cold and industrial. I mean, lighting is absolutely everything in visual storytelling, right? This golden hour light bathes everything in a soft amber hue. It ties directly back to that shiny gold gear we talked about earlier. It transforms what could be a hard sci-fi setting into an inviting fairy tale. It tells us that this moment, right now, is special, fleeting, and just full of wonder.
As we leave this bustling, floating island, I want you to consider this final thought. Based on everything we've just visualized together, what comes to life in the very next second? Does the bird snatch the gear and suddenly sing a mechanical melody? Does it take flight towards those colorful airships? We started with just a single sentence, but because of the incredible power of specific, deliberate, and structured description, we've built a world so vivid that the story is now moving forward entirely on its own in our minds. That is the true magic of this kind of descriptive architecture. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.